Is your local police force becoming a military unit? You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. In the United States and many other countries, the police and the military are often treated as two separate entities. Sometimes the line blurs. Most agree that Special Weapons and Tactics, or SWAT teams, came into being during the 1960s under the administration of LAPD Chief Daryl Gates. This idea was the brainchild of officer and former Marine John Nelson. SWAT was the department's solution to their less than effective initial response to unrest during the Watts riots of 1965. During a time of massive civic disorder, the LA Police Department used this specialized squad to protect Lyndon Johnson from protesters, control crowds, and more. The concept of a police paramilitary unit spread to other departments, and with the dawn of the war on drugs in the 1980s, SWAT teams became even more widespread. At the same time, their missions began to focus more and more on drug operations. Over the next few decades, local police departments across the United States began to gain more access to military-grade weapons and hardware. For advocates of the practice, this is a necessary step in ensuring the safety of the public and the police. For critics, this militarization is a disturbing trend that may endanger more people than it protects. But the biggest question of all is, why are the police militarizing in the first place? Here's where it gets crazy. Whether you're a fan or a foe of this practice, the numbers are irrefutable. SWAT team operations are on the rise, and in the US, Congress is actively redistributing military hardware to domestic law enforcement. The National Defense Authorization Act of 1997 created the Law Enforcement Support Program. By 2005, this program had distributed over $730 million worth of military equipment to over 17,000 police agencies. This equipment ranged from protective armor and helmets to helicopters, grenade launchers, armored vehicles, and high-powered assault weapons. From the perspective of the police, this is a welcome funding opportunity. Who wouldn't jump at the chance for free or subsidized equipment? And there's no question that better protective gear makes for safer officers. But opponents like the Cato Institute's Radley Balko do question whether law enforcement in rural, low-crime areas really need bomb-diffusing robots, tanks, and MRAPs. Opponents of the practice don't always agree about why this occurs. For many, it's an example of government waste or even corruption. There's a lot of money in play, as manufacturers of these weapons and equipment are fully aware. Every year in Oakland, California, the Urban Shield Expo promises vendors access to numerous tactical teams, police, fire, and other emergency managers from throughout the nation and the world. There's also the argument that agreements between the federal government and private corporations have led to a massive surplus of unneeded equipment, which has to go somewhere. The final argument is both the most paranoid and the most disturbing, that the federal government may be preparing for a full-on domestic war against its own citizens. This last idea remains on the fringes of public discourse. To the mainstream, it's a conspiracy theory. But to people across the nation, the increasingly militarized police are a sign that there's something Uncle Sam doesn't want you to know. What are you actually eating? Stay tuned to learn more about food additives in our upcoming series.